They say, the forest remembers. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can still hear the echo of engines beneath the fog, the deep growl of machines dragging the weight of history behind them. It was the winter of 1944. The Ardennes were suffocating under a shroud of mist and cold, and every breath we took felt stolen from death itself. I was 25, a tank driver for the Allied forces, somewhere between Belgium and a place God had long abandoned. My tank was a Sherman, lighter, weaker, but she was mine. We called her Faithless. She rattled when she idled, leaked oil when she was scared, but she'd carried us through hell more than once. That morning, as the first gray light seeped through the forest, I was sitting on the edge of her hull, boots sunk in the mud, listening to the static hum of the radio. Behind me, my gunner and closest friend, Luis Martinez, was cleaning the barrel, muttering something about wanting to go home. He was just 22, a kid who still believed that courage was louder than fear. Then came the voice I'd grown to dread and respect, in equal measure. All your units prepare to advance. It was Captain John Sullivan, our commanding officer, a man carved out of duty and discipline. He never smiled, never hesitated. His words were like commands carved in stone. I picked up the mic. This is Weber. Copy that. Engines warm. Good, Sullivan replied. Our objective is Montfleur, a small village near the ridge. Intel says German armor has cut off the northern road. There are civilians trapped. We move in, extract them quietly. No direct engagement unless ordered. Understood, sir. Luis leaned against the turret, eyes wide. No engagement? You mean we just drive through Tiger Country and wave hello? Orders are orders, I said, but my stomach twisted. We'd all heard the stories. The Tiger I tanks, beasts of steel that made Shermans look like toys. One-on-one, you didn't fight a tiger. You prayed. It didn't see you. The fog thickened as we rolled out. Trees loomed like ghosts, branches reaching out as if trying to hold us back. Every crunch of metal, every click of the gearbox echoed through the still air. Our convoy crept through the woods, 4 Shermans in total. Sullivan's tank led, ours followed second. The radio crackled, then went silent again. The world shrank to the sound of engines and the beating of my heart. Then through the mist, I saw them. 2 silhouettes, broad, motionless, predatory. The fog parted just enough for the light to glint off their armor. 2 Tiger tanks, side by side, scanning the valley ahead. Luis whispered, Jesus Christ. I felt my throat close up. We were barely 500 meters away. If they saw us first, we were done. Sullivan's voice came through the headset. Hold your fire. Repeat, hold your fire. Maintain cover. My hands clenched around the control sticks. The forest was too quiet. Even the birds had stopped. I could feel the hum of Faithless beneath me, her engine vibrating through my bones like a heartbeat trying to run. Tom, Luis said quietly, they'll spot us any second. We have to move. No, I whispered back. Not yet. The Tigers started turning, their turrets slowly sweeping the tree line. One of them fired. A thunderclap, that split the forest open. A shell tore through the air somewhere behind us. The ground shook. Sullivan barked again. "Hold position!" "That's an order." I froze. Every instinct in my body screamed to run, to act, to do something. But orders were orders. And then I saw it. A reflection of movement on the tiger's hull. They were pivoting toward the village, toward Montfleur. That's when something inside me snapped. I don't remember deciding. I just remember moving. I slammed my hand down on the throttle. "Luis, reverse gear." He looked at me, stunned. "What?" "Reverse! Now!" The engine roared, the treads screamed, and Faithless lurched backward into the fog. I could hear Sullivan shouting over the radio, but I'd tuned him out. The plan, if you could call it that, formed in my head in a heartbeat. If we moved backward down the slope, we could draw the tiger's attention away from the village. They'd think we were retreating, follow us, expose their flanks. It was madness, but in that moment, madness felt like the only kind of courage left. Luis cursed under his breath as the tank jolted down the muddy incline. "Tom, this is suicide." "Only if we stop," I said. Through the periscope, I saw one of the tigers turning toward us. Its barrel swung like the finger of God. "Ready main gun?" Luis loaded a shell. His hands were shaking. The tiger fired first. The shell missed by a miracle. Detonating behind us, the shockwave nearly tore my headset off. "Steady!" I shouted. "Aim for the track." Luis fired. The shell hit low, sparks and debris flying. Not a kill shot, but enough to make the tiger stutter. Smoke belched from its side. The second tiger moved forward now, its gun searching. I could see the muzzle flash before I even heard it. The shot slammed into a tree beside us, shattering it into splinters. I yanked the throttle again, swinging the tank left, still in reverse. The entire world was noise and fire. Then I saw an opening, a narrow path between two rock outcrops. "Luis, hang on!" We roared backward into the gap, the tank scraping the rocks, sparks flying off the armor. Behind us, one of the tigers tried to follow, its turret grinding against the stones. "Now!" I yelled. Luis fired again. The shell struck dead center on the tiger's side armor, a lucky hit. The explosion lit up the fog like lightning. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Then Luis laughed, a high, hysterical sound. "We hit it! We actually hit it!" The second tiger stopped. Smoke billowed from the first one's wreck. The survivor hesitated. Then slowly, it began to back away. Silence. Only the echo of the explosions rolled across the valley. I lowered my head onto the controls, shaking. Sullivan's voice came through, harsh and trembling. "Weber, you disobeyed a direct order." I clicked the mic. "Sir, if I hadn't, they'd be in Montfleur right now." A pause. Then quieter. "God damn you, Weber." We rolled into Montfleur just after dusk. The village was little more than rubble and smoke. Burned out homes, dead cattle in the fields, the stench of cordite and wet ash. And then, Through the fog, I saw movement. People. Civilians. A dozen or so, huddled together in the square. Among them, a woman in a blood-stained nurse's coat, waving desperately. I climbed out of the tank. She ran toward me. "Please. There are children in the church. They're trapped." Her French accent was thick, her voice raw. "I'm Marie," she said. "I stayed to help them. The Germans are still here." Luis came up behind me, panting. "What do we do, Tom?" I looked at the horizon, smoke rising from the eastern ridge. More German units, maybe reinforcements. I keyed the radio. "Captain, civilians confirmed in Montfleur. We're extracting negative," came Sullivan's reply. "We wait until morning. Too risky to move at night." I turned toward Marie. The fear in her eyes said everything. I switched off the radio. "Risky," I muttered, "is all that's left." We gathered the villagers in the square, children crying, men too numb to speak. Marie moved from one to another, whispering comfort, pressing cloth to wounds that wouldn't stop bleeding. Luis and I patrolled the perimeter, guns ready. The fog was thicker than ever, like the night itself, wanted to hide what was coming. At some point, Marie approached me. "Why did you come back?" she asked softly. I shrugged. "Our orders said hold position." She frowned. "And you didn't." "No," I said. "Not this time." She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Sometimes the only order worth following is the one your heart gives. The hours stretched. Every sound, a branch snapping, a breath too loud, felt like a threat. At 2 a.m., we heard the first rumble. Engines, not ours. Luis and I scrambled back into the tank. I pressed the headset tight. "Command, this is Weber. Enemy armor approaching from east. Static." The line was dead. I turned to Luis. "Get ready." He loaded another shell. "How many do you think?" I listened. 3, maybe 4 engines. Too many. The villagers huddled in the church. Marie helped them barricade the doors. Sullivan's unit was miles away. We were alone. As the first headlight beam cut through the fog, I felt something cold settle in my gut. A Panzer IV, followed by 2 half-tracks. They rolled down the main street, unaware of us in the shadows. "Luis," I whispered, "let's make them look the wrong way." He smirked nervously. "Crazy reverse again?" I grinned. "You know me too well." We powered up the engine. Lights off. I reversed faithless into the alley behind the bakery, using the broken windows as mirrors. When the Panzers were close enough, I gave the signal. "Now!" The cannon thundered. The first shot hit the lead vehicle, sending it spinning. Soldiers screamed. The second shot took out the truck behind it. Return fire lit up the night. The cobblestones cracked and flew. I felt the tank shudder as rounds ricocheted off the armor. Luis swore, reloading, sweat pouring down his face. A grenade exploded near the left tread. We rocked sideways. "Left track damaged." "Hold it together," I shouted. I hit reverse again, backing toward the square. I could see the church doors, and Marie's terrified face at the window. She mouthed something I couldn't hear. "Keep firing," I yelled. We blew through the square, firing on the move. The last Panzer went up in flames, the half-tracks retreating into the woods. For a moment, there was silence again. The village was ours. When dawn came, the fog lifted for the first time in days. The church bell, cracked and blackened, still hung from its tower. I climbed onto Faithless, legs trembling. Marie approached, her face pale, eyes red from smoke. "You saved them," she whispered. I shook my head. "We just bought them time." Luis handed me a ration tin, half empty. "You think they'll court-martial us?" I laughed weakly. "Probably." He smiled. "Worth it." And for the first time in weeks, I felt something like peace. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Because wars don't end with silence. They end when the last man who remembers finally stops telling the story. I remember the dawn that followed. It was the kind of morning that made you forget there had ever been such a thing as sunlight. Smoke hung low over Montfleur, a gray fog that blurred the edges of the ruined houses. The air reeked of diesel, ash, and something worse, the kind of smell that clings to your soul long after you've washed it off your skin. We'd survived the night. Barely. But survival wasn't victory. Not yet. Luis and I spent the early hours repairing the track damage. My hands were cracked and black with grease. The tank's armor was pitted with bullet marks, each one a reminder of how close we'd come to being ghosts. Marie and the villagers were still in the church. Some slept in the pews, others just sat there, staring at nothing. The war had emptied their eyes. When the sun rose higher, I climbed onto the tank to get a better view. The ridge beyond the forest was quiet. Too quiet. I didn't need binoculars to feel it. The calm before another storm. Luis joined me on the hull, stretching his sore shoulders. "You think they'll come back?" I nodded. "They don't like to lose." "Neither do we." He grinned, but it didn't reach his eyes. A few minutes later, the radio sputtered to life. "Weber, this is Sullivan. Do you copy?" I grabbed the receiver. "Loud and clear, sir. We're pushing up from the western route. Sit tight. Reinforcements ETA 30 minutes. "Copy that," I hesitated. "Sir," I said quietly, "there are civilians here. A lot of them. I know. That's why you're to hold your fire until we arrive. Understood?" The words hit like a stone in my gut. Hold your fire. "Yes, sir." The radio clicked off. Luis looked at me. "You're not going to wait, are you?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Half an hour later, the sound came, faint at first, like distant thunder. Then louder, closer. Engines. Many of them. I ran to the edge of the square, peering through the smoke. Dark shapes moved between the trees. Trucks, tanks, infantry. I cursed under my breath. "They're early." Luis climbed into the turret. "How many?" "Too many." I could feel the fear crawling up my spine, but I forced it down. Fear doesn't help you drive a tank. I looked toward the church. Marie was standing in the doorway, arms around two children. When she saw me looking, she shook her head, a silent plea. I lifted my headset. "Command, this is Weber. Enemy armor approaching Montfleur. Request immediate support static." No answer. Then Sullivan's voice, faint but clear. "Hold position. Reinforcements inbound. Do not engage." I stared at the church again, at the faces pressed against the windows, and something inside me twisted. Orders be damned. The first German shell hit the north end of the village. The explosion sent tiles and smoke flying. Screams followed. Luis ducked inside the turret. "They've started shelling!" Then we start fighting. I slammed the hatch shut. "Load HE." Luis grinned grimly. "Aye, Captain." The engine roared to life, drowning out the sounds of panic outside. I guided Faithless forward, her tread beds grinding over debris. Through the sight, I saw them. 3 Pfingsolzers rolling down the main road, infantry fanning out behind. "Range, 600, Luis said. "Fire." The shell streaked out and hit the lead Panzer square in the chest. The explosion lit up the street. Smoke and flame poured out of the turret. The second Panzer turned its gun toward us. "Back! Back! Back!" I yelled. We reversed behind the bakery wall, just as the shot ripped through where we'd been. The impact cracked stone, showering us with dust. Luis coughed. "You're insane." "Yeah," I said. "I get that a lot." For the next 5 minutes, it was chaos. Every shot echoed through the narrow streets, bouncing off the stone walls like thunder trapped in a cage. We played cat and mouse through Montfleur, firing, reversing, firing again. At one point, I glanced through the periscope and saw Marie dragging an injured man out of the open. "Luis!" I barked. "Cover the church." He swung the turret, firing a round that blew apart a German half-track barreling toward the square. The concussion shook the earth. "Got him!" Luis shouted. But for every enemy we dropped, another seemed to appear. Then a metallic groan, the kind you never forget. A tiger, its massive form, emerged from the smoke at the far end of the street. Luis went pale. "Oh no!" "Not again." "Yep," I said. Round 2. The tiger advanced slowly, confident, monstrous. Its armor gleamed in the firelight. We were outmatched, outgunned, and pinned between rubble. Luis's voice cracked. "Tom," Sullivan said, "hold fire." "Not today." I slammed the throttle. The tank lurched forward. "Reverse maneuver, Mom," I said. "You know what to do." He grinned despite himself. "You're completely mad." "Maybe. But I'm consistent." We hit reverse, backing down the narrow street. The tiger fired. The shell whizzed overhead, exploding behind us. The tank rocked but kept moving. My heart hammered in my chest. Distance? 300. Hold steady. Another shot. Missed. We backed into the alley near the church. The tiger followed, its massive gun adjusting slowly. "Now!" I yelled. Luis fired. The shell struck the tiger's side. Sparks flew. Smoke poured, but it kept coming. "Reload!" "I'm out of HE." "Then give me AP." He jammed in the next round, sweat dripping into his eyes. We fired again. This time, the shell pierced the tiger's turret ring. The explosion was deafening. The tiger halted, smoke billowing from its vents. Then, silence. Luis laughed, breathless. "Did we?" "Yeah," I said softly. "We did." But there was no time to celebrate. Another shell hit the square. The church tower exploded, raining stone and fire. I saw Marie fall through the doorway. "No!" I screamed. I threw open the hatch, bumped down, sprinted through the smoke. Debris rained from above. The heat unbearable. Marie was on the ground, coughing, trying to push a beam off her leg. I grabbed it, heaved it with everything I had. It wouldn't budge. "Tom, go!" she gasped. "They're coming." I shook my head. "Not without you." She looked up, eyes glistening. "Please, the children are inside." "Save them." I froze. And then I heard them, small voices crying from within the burning church. I turned to Luis, who had followed me, face streaked with soot. "Get them out," I yelled. "Now!" He nodded and disappeared into the fire. The next few minutes blurred together. Screams, explosions, the sound of my own heartbeat pounding louder than the guns. Luis came out carrying 2 children, coughing blood. I took one in my arms. "Where's Marie?" "She told me to go." The roof collapsed behind us. The church was gone. I wanted to run back in. But then I saw the look on Luis's face. The kind of look that says, it's already too late. I stood there in the street, holding the child, while the sky burned. We loaded the survivors onto a supply truck. Luis climbed into the turret, still wheezing. I joined him. "Captain's on his way," he said. I nodded. "Good. Let's finish this." We drove to the ridge, overlooking the village. That's when I saw them. The last wave of German armor. 3 Tigers rolling in from the east. Sullivan's convoy was just cresting the opposite hill. We were between both sides. I keyed the radio. "Captain, they're in the open. I can flank them from the ridge." "Negative," Sullivan barked, and "Hold your fire." Repeat. "Hold your fire. Reinforcements are too close." I hesitated. "Tom," Luis said, "if you fire now, you'll give away our position." "If we don't," I said quietly, "they'll slaughter the reinforcements before they even reach the village." He stared at me, then nodded. "Then let's make it count." I took a deep breath. The world seemed to narrow. The noise, the smoke, the screams, all of it faded. Just me, the tank, and 3 shadows on the horizon. "Ready?" Luis aimed. "Target 1. Fire." The first shot struck dead center. The Tiger jerked to a stop. "Reload!" "On it." Second shot. Another hit. The second Tiger burst into flames. The third turned toward us. "Tom!" Luis shouted. "He's got us." I hit reverse, just like before. The shell tore through the ridge, rocks flying. Luis lined up the last round. "Make it count," I whispered. He fired. The shell flew straight into the Tiger's gun mantlet. The explosion ripped it apart. Silence. Then cheering. Distant. Faint. Sullivan's convoy had reached the village. I slumped back in my seat. My hands were shaking. Luis laughed. A broken, exhausted sound. "We did it again." "Yeah," I said. "We did." The relief lasted maybe 10 seconds. Then something whistled through the air, a sound I'll never forget. Artillery. The shell hit just behind us. The tank lurched, flame bursting through the rear hatch. "Engines hit!" Luis yelled. "Get out!" He grabbed his helmet, pushed the hatch open. "You first." "Go!" I shoved him toward the opening. He crawled out onto the hull. Then another explosion. Closer this time. The tank tilted. "Luis!" No answer. I tried to climb out, but the heat was unbearable. The flames spread fast, licking at my boots. I grabbed the mic. "Captain, the village is safe. The Tigers are down. Just get them out." Static. Then Sullivan's voice, raw and broken. "Weber, hold on. We're coming for you." I smiled. "Too late, sir." The world went white. LorgSod2 at Gibbo01.com. When I woke, everything was quiet. No smoke, no fire, just snow. I was lying in the field behind the ridge. The tank was a burning husk a few meters away. Luis was gone. I tried to move, but my legs didn't answer. I remember the cold seeping in, the kind that feels like forgiveness. Somewhere in the distance, I heard children laughing. Maybe it was real, maybe not. But I held on to that sound until everything went dark. I don't remember being rescued. They told me later that Sullivan's men found me half buried in the snow. They never found Luis or Marie. The official report called it unauthorized engagement resulting in high enemy losses. No medals, no mention of heroism, just a footnote. But the villagers of Montfleur, they remembered. 20 years later, I went back. The war was over, but its ghosts never left. The church had been rebuilt. Children played in the square, where the Tigers once burned. Near the fountain stood a rusted plaque. It read, "In memory of those who disobeyed to protect." Dedicated to Thomas Weber and the crew of Faithless. I stood there for a long time, watching the sunlight glint off the metal. A boy ran up to me, dark hair, wide eyes. "Monsieur," he said, "my mama says a tank driver saved us here." "Was that you?" I smiled, though my throat ached. "No, son," I said softly. "It was all of us." He frowned, then grinned. "My papa says you were crazy." I laughed. "Maybe. But sometimes crazy's the only thing that works." He ran off, laughing. I turned back to the plaque. Someone had scratched words beneath the engraving, faded, but still legible. "Hold your fire, unless your heart tells you otherwise." I touched the metal, cold under my fingers. And for the first time in 20 years, I let myself cry.